Hey everyone, how's it going? Heather here with Mark Johnston, and we're really excited to have you guys join us for our first duo live stream here. We just want to welcome you and thank you for joining our group, The Thriving Marriage. We're just delighted at how many people have joined already. And just as a little bit of housekeeping before we jump into our main topic for today, if you're new to the group, please introduce yourself. Let us know where you are from, the things that you love to do, and a little bit about your marriage situation and whatever is going on there so that we can know how best to help you. And also, we are wanting to serve as many people as possible. So if you know of anyone else that would benefit from being in a really safe, open community like this, then go ahead and invite them to the group as well. Because I know there's a lot of other people out there, a lot of other couples that could benefit from this kind of environment. So with that being said, we're just going to jump right in. Mark, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Heather?
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so Mark and I were going through the feed and kind of going through people's different comments, and we picked up on a few things that we thought we would touch on today. And one was this idea that you don't have enough time to spend together as a couple, and that you don't have the time to go on dates together. And so, yeah, we just wanted to kind of jump right into that. So, Mark, what did you notice?
Well, what I was noticing when I've noticed working with other people and what I've seen in the group, this is something that I've observed, is that a lack of dates or lack of time to go on dates, it's really a symptom of a bigger problem. And I'm so glad that we get to address this specific issue today. One of the first questions that I had, what I usually ask people is, what does a lack of dates really do to the relationship? And I usually ask this people, it gets people thinking about really the consequences of it, because a lot of people can identify that lack there. They're saying, oh, we don't go out on dates anymore, but they don't really realize what it actually does and how it actually impacts the relationship. What do you think? What does it do to a relationship to not have that connection there?
Oh, yeah. I think this is a really big one. I was just recently talking with a couple, actually, someone that I know personally, and they were saying, when our marriage started to kind of go downhill, they were close to divorce, not all the way through it, but they were really at a point of a lot of pain for both of them. And they said one of the first things we noticed was we weren't going out on dates anymore. They even said, we went on I think they went on one date within like a 13-month period. Which is really, really a long time, right? And they said they noticed that they weren't spending time. They felt like they were third or fourth priority to each other. That the kids, they had a good number of children, the kids, the job, the extended family, and I don't even know what else, maybe friends, or I'm not sure what their situation was, but that they felt like they were at the bottom of the list in each other's lives, right? They felt like they didn't have they weren't making each other a priority. And so that's the deeper problem. The symptom of that was that they weren't spending the time together. And they would say things that in their words, right, that we don't have time and we don't have money. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the surface excuses that they were using. But they realized, just like you were saying, it kind of is a symptom of a bigger issue going on. And again, someone in the group was just mentioning this, that they've been married for a little while, and early in their marriage, they were spending lots of time together, going on lots of dates, having all these adventures. And then over time, life gets busy, right? It gets complicated, and it's really easy to get in a rut. That's, in fact, the exact words that were used in this comment right here on this group. So I thought that was a really good way of putting that. We can get into a rut, right? Where we make less and less time and make it less and less of a priority. So and what are the consequences of that? What do you guys feel are the consequences of that? If you have a comment or about that, I know, maybe not a lot of people, sorry, my daughter just dropped a water bottle. That's what happens in life. Maybe you aren't watching this live, but if you have a comment about that, let me know. Like, what is the effect of this? You're not taking the time.
Even if you are getting some feedback. Even if you aren't watching, please comment on the video. But what I like what you were saying is that people feel, or they're saying that they don't have time to go out on dates. And you know what? I think about this when people say that, I just see it. Let me be honest here. I see it as an excuse or a justification. Now, sure, there are certain circumstances, there are certain situations where it's harder to find the time. A good friend of ours, their child was diagnosed with leukemia recently, and it is really hard for them to get out on a date. They're using a lot of help just to get by. But you know what? They have still, on occasion, been able to get out on dates. We had to help them out on some of these instances. But what I'm saying is, when you're saying that you don't have the time to get out on a date, it's frequently just it's a way of justifying not going out on dates. It's because they've gotten into a certain mindset. Now, so this happens for various reasons. I've known a lot of couples who they try getting out on dates and there's some difficulty, and so they keep telling themselves it's hard to get out on dates. We don't have time to get out on dates. It's hard to find a babysitter, and that becomes the norm. Mm-hmm. And what's the consequence of that is they don't go out on dates, and things start going downhill. So that kind of brings up the question of, okay, how does the myth of not having time to go out on dates, how does that myth or how does that mindset get started? Because really, it is just that. We named this live stream the myth of not having time for dates for a reason, because I mentioned my parents in an earlier post. I love their example. They had 8 kids. My dad had his own business. They still had time for dates. He ran an accounting firm, and so even during tax season, they still found time for each other. So if anyone didn't have time, I would think these people who had tons of children, who had a busy schedule, they wouldn't have had time, but they somehow made that a priority. So that's why we call it a myth. So how does this myth get started in the couple? What do you think, Heather?
That is a really good question. I know that for Ben and I don't even know. It's just one of those things that kind of think slowly creeps in. And we realized far into it that's kind of where we were stuck at. But how does it get started? That's a really good question. And I'm not sure I have an exact answer for that. I think that it gets started, because you kind of, I don't know, you start to prioritize. I think it comes back to that prioritizing other things, right? And that maybe it's a little bit uncomfortable to spend time one-on-one with each other. Maybe things aren't really great right now. And so why would you want to spend time one-on-one with them if they're not really giving you that love and connection, and it's not maybe a pleasant experience, so then you use the time as that excuse. So that's kind of an initial thought that comes to my mind.
What you're doing there is you're attaching some meaning to those excuses. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what couples do, is they hit a problem, whether it's uncomfortable being alone with the spouse at that time, whether there is actually some extra time constraints, whether there's a lack of money, but they have these problems, and then they attach some meaning to those problems, and then that meaning becomes the excuse. So, for instance, the problem is they lack time. There's some extra time constraints, and then the meaning that they ended up attaching is it's hard to go out on dates because of this lack of time. And then they keep driving that message home. It's hard to go out on dates. It's hard to go out on dates. It's hard to go out on dates. And over time, that thought pattern becomes the norm, even if there are other options available.
Yeah, then that makes a lot of sense. Thanks for clarifying that for me and for everyone else. Yeah, that's one of those things. It's like you have to become really mindful about what's actually going on beneath the surface. And when we tell ourselves stories like this over and over and over, then we kind of make them true, right? Like you just said. Then you tell yourself we don't have time. So then, why would you even make the time? Because you already decided in your mind that there isn't time. So then you won't make the time. So how do we kind of, I don't know. Yeah, what are some of the consequences of that, of getting stuck in that mindset? Because honestly, like the myth that there isn't time, it's BS. I'm saying this with deep love and respect, but I'm going to say it really boldly because it is completely, our time management. There are some circumstances like Mark was talking about, but where things get more challenging. However, it really is just a matter of prioritizing it and making it important enough. Now, we know that, most of the successful couples that are really happy in their marriage, they do have that one-on-one time and they crave it. Like, it fuels them, it energizes them. It gives them that break, that relief, and that connection again, just the two of them, especially when you have children. I think that's why it's so vitally important. But yeah, I'm losing my train of thought here. Sorry. But I think
I like what you're saying.
You're going to do it.
Yeah, I like what you're saying is when it's working, it is fabulous. When my wife and I get out together, it is so great to have that one-on-one time. We're able to reestablish that connection. And I don't know, for us, it just makes the whole rest of the week go smoother. I'm more interested in seeing her at the end of the day. I'm excited because we had that time to connect. And
right.
So it is really, really important to get past this myth of not having time, not having resources, not having whatever to get out on dates.
Yeah. And just to touch on that, not having the money, I just want to touch on that real quick because that's another myth. You don't have to spend tons of money to have an incredible time together, right? Like we're going to go into a challenge this week. You guys have told me that you're game, so let's do it. But one of the challenges is quality time. I think that's our first day today is quality time. And you'll see, you just go on a walk, go feed some ducks, go listen to some music in a music store. You don't have to buy anything. Go tour some model homes. One of my friends here, he and his wife go tour model homes because they just love, it's free. They just get to spend time together and go look at these beautiful homes and decide what they want in their dream home. Anyway, there's incredible stuff that you can do that literally doesn't cost any money. So throw that one out the door. That can't be our excuse anymore. Get creative and find some things that you can do to spend quality time. If your finances aren't what you'd ideally like them to be, that's okay. But still making sure that you have that time together is really important.
That reminds me of a time, this was several years ago, and I think I'd just gotten laid off from a job. My wife and I were struggling a little bit with money. You know what we did? We went out and we took just a little bit of money out of the bank, like $100. We went to the mall and we pretended like we had that money to spend. We were going around. I think my wife might have tried on some lingerie at the shop. But we went around and we flirted and we had fun. And even if we didn't have that money, it was just kind of fun to get out and just be a little bit goofy with each other. So yeah, I second that. There are no excuses.
Yeah, very good.
All right. Well, if anyone has comments, if they've been struggling with this problem in particular, or if you need some help with this problem in particular, please, please, please comment on the video here. We want to help you out. And yeah, anything you have to add?
Yeah, absolutely. I just think that, like we said, this is a symptom of a little bit of a bigger problem. And so if you hear yourself saying that or using that kind of language, if you feel like you and your partner are stuck in that rut, that one of you used your own words with that really kind of examine why are you feeling that way, and how would you rather feel? And so we know when we're not spending time together, we're not cultivating the marriage. I often like to apply marriage as like a garden, right? So spending that time is going to help it grow. It's going to help it thrive. It's going to help it be sweet and delicious. But without it, things are really going to get stale. You're going to lose that lack of connection, and just really feel like you're not a priority to that person. Because if you love someone, if you want, you're going to want to be around them and invest that time into them. So yeah, I feel like if that's where you're at, if you hear yourself saying those kind of things and notice that those are the kind of patterns going on, take a look at that and see what's really going on there. Yep. That's my final thought. So
great.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right. Well,
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say thanks everyone for watching. Yeah. We'll try to keep these a regular thing. So keep watching. thing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thank you guys. And like I said, today we're kicking off our 5-day challenge. So this is a perfect opportunity to invest a little bit of time. We're not talking about a ton, a little bit of time. It doesn't even have to cost any money, but just put forth some effort to get some positive things going in your marriages. And I'm really excited to hear how it goes for you all. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you next time.
Bye.